Welcome to Joy of Architecture.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really opening up a big stack of source material. We've got analysis reports, articles, research papers, all focused on this, well, increasingly vital topic, developer experience, or DevEx, as everyone calls it.
That's right. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to properly get to grips with what DevEx actually is.
Yeah.
Why has it shifted from just a buzzword to something genuinely strategic?
Yeah, and what makes it good versus bad? What are the key elements?
And what are the latest trends shaking things up? We also need to look at the real challenges, especially for bigger companies.
And crucially, how do you actually show the value? How do you make the case to management to, invest in this stuff?
Because it's clear from all the reading, isn't it? Software runs the world now.
Totally. And how well you create that software, how effective your developers are, that directly impacts your success. It's not just a nice to have anymore.
Not at all. It's a fundamental competitive lever.
Okay, so let's unpack that definition first. When the sources talk about developer experience in a software org, what's the core idea?
Well, they define it pretty broadly. It's basically the total perception and interaction a developer has with their entire work environment.
So much more than just like the IDE they use or the specific tools.
Oh, absolutely. The
Yeah.
research consistently points to these four critical dimensions. There's speed, how fast can developers actually get things done?
Mm.
Effectiveness, are they delivering real value?
Right.
Then there's the quality of what they produce, and ultimately the business impact of all that work.
And it sounds like it's fundamentally human-centric. It's about the person doing the work.
Exactly. It's about intentionally designing things to cut down frictions, get rid of waste, the stuff that just gets in the way, and also fostering a positive emotional connection.
So developers can actually focus on the important stuff, the high-value tasks.
Precisely. The goal is sort of optimizing for both happiness and productivity, making it genuinely easier to create really high-quality work.
I saw the term flow state mentioned a lot. That feeling of being completely absorbed doing your best work.
Yes, and a good DevEx environment is key to enabling that. It does that by minimizing cognitive load, the mental effort needed, and reducing context switching, which, as you know, just kills flow.
So it really is holistic then. It's the developer's psychological state, the team culture, the processes, and the tech tools, the whole experience.
That's a perfect way to put it, the whole lived experience. So, okay, given that broad definition, what does this spectrum look like? What's good DevEx versus bad?
Well, on the good side, the sources describe these frictionless workflows, minimal steps, fewer bureaucratic hoops to jump through, getting rid of bottlenecks.
Right, so changes get implemented without a load of ceremony.
Yeah.
Faster cycles.
Exactly. And then you have well-designed tools and platforms, things that are intuitive, reliable, integrated, tools developers actually like using.
Yeah, and the impact there is significant. One report mentioned developers feeling 50% more innovative just from having intuitive tools. That's huge.
Definitely. Clear standards and guardrails also pop up in good DevEx. They guide developers maybe setting patterns or security defaults, but without boxing them in, so you get consistency and quality.
And fast feedback loops.
Yeah.
Crucial. Quick builds, efficient tests, and especially rapid code reviews. This speeds up learning like crazy.
Oh yeah, the code review point. The research showed developers felt 20% more innovative if they got fast feedback on their code.
Makes sense. And knowledge accessibility is another big one. Being able to find what you need fast. Good docs, code bases you can actually understand.
That stat about code understanding, developers feeling 42% more productive, that really stands out. And the flip side too, 41% seeing bad docs as a major blocker.
It points right to wasted time, doesn't it? Then there's supportive culture, psychological safety, collaboration, and effective onboarding, setting people up for success from day one.
Okay, now let's flip it. What does bad DevEx look like, according to the sources? Because the impact seems just as big, but negative.
Well, poor onboarding is often flagged as the start of the problem, the initial gateway to a bad experience that can just linger.
Right, first impressions matter.
And then it's often a cascade of just friction, too many tasks, inefficiencies everywhere, long setup times, tests that take forever, feedback loops measured in days.
That leads to frustration, burnout,
Yeah,
people thinking about leaving.
exactly. And that inefficient documentation issue comes up again. You mentioned the 41%, seeing it as a hindrance. Some sources say over a quarter of developers spend an hour, sometimes more, every single day just searching for information.
An hour a day. Just think about that cost adding up across a team, across a year.
It's staggering. Then you have forced tooling, maybe outdated tech stacks, lots of manual processes, horrible legacy code,
Yeah.
all major sources of frustration. Limits autonomy, slows everything.
And it all adds up to high cognitive load, right? This hidden tax you mentioned.
Yeah, complex tasks,
Hmm.
code nobody understands, tools that fight you. It's mentally draining. It actively blocks productivity and creativity.
And there was that really interesting point about developer behavior.
Ah, yes. This is important. What might look like a developer being sloppy, ignoring errors, randomly trying things, not updating docs, often isn't just an individual failing.
You mean it's a
Yeah.
symptom of the bad environment.
Precisely. The sources strongly argue that leadership needs to look at the systemic causes of the environment, the culture, the tools, the processes, instead of just blaming the individual developer. It's a really crucial reframing.
That feels like a really important shift in perspective. Okay, so let's dig into those core elements that do create positive DevEx. What are the key building blocks?
Well, it starts with enabling that flow state and making sure the work itself is engaging. The data is pretty clear. 50% more productive with dedicated deep work time, 30% more productive on tasks they find interesting.
So the environment has to actively protect that focus time, and the work needs to be designed thoughtfully.
Absolutely. And managing cognitive load is tightly linked. Simplified code, intuitive tools, smoother processes, they all reduce the mental effort needed.
And we saw the numbers 42% more productive with code understanding, 50% more innovative with good tools. It's that hidden tax, again, often made worse by tech debt or lack of standards.
Right. Which fast-moving teams can sometimes overlook in the rush. Then rapid feedback loops, vital for learning, iterating, and feeling safe.
That stat about 50% less tech debt when questions get answered fast, that's compelling. Fast code reviews drive innovation too. It stops people getting blocked or anxious.
Yeah, and prevents small things snowballing. Frictionless workflows and tooling are about optimizing that whole journey, from writing code locally right through to deployment.
Making it smooth minimizes cognitive load and context switching, which means faster time to market. And that points towards needing a cohesive platform, not just a jumble of tools.
Exactly, which leads to knowledge accessibility and documentation being treated as, a first-class citizen, not an afterthought.
Because organized, accessible knowledge cuts down that wasted search time, stops people reinventing the wheel, ensures consistency. It's an investment that pays off.
It absolutely is. And underpinning all of this technical stuff is that supportive culture and good communication. Creating psychological safety lets people experiment, learn from mistakes, collaborate properly.
You can have the best tools in the world, but if the culture isn't right,
They won't deliver their full potential.
right.
Leadership has to actively cultivate things like transparency and trust. And finally, back to effective onboarding. It's just foundational.
That first impression again, get new hires productive and feeling good quickly. Poor onboarding is the gateway to poor DevEx and hurts retention.
Absolutely critical.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. What are the big industry trends really reshaping developer experience right now? What are the sources highlighting?
Well, number one, without a doubt, is AI-powered development. It's everywhere in the sources. AI agents are becoming co-pilots, augmenting developers, handling the grunt work.
Letting humans focus on the higher value, more creative stuff.
Exactly. And the excitement levels are off the charts. Like 96% of developers are excited about AI's potential. It's popping up across the whole SDLC. Writing code, reviewing, debugging, testing, automating repetitive tasks.
And there's real data on the benefits, right? It's not just hype.
No, definitely not. Generative AI is measurably reducing development time, even for complex tasks. It's making it easier to learn new languages or figure out existing code bases. Huge numbers like 60–70% find it easier.
Wow.
And tools like GitHub Copilot are specifically shown to reduce cognitive load, like 70% less mental effort on repetitive tasks, which leads to more flow state, maybe around 39% more, according to some studies.
That's impressive. And it's also making development more accessible.
Yeah, lowering the barrier to entry, potentially letting more people code, which also means we need to rethink productivity metrics move beyond just lines of code.
And companies are actually using this stuff now.
Oh yeah, the sources are full of examples. Renault, Capgemini, CME Group seeing productivity boosts, Commerzbank using it for security, Sumitomo Rubber Industries cutting task times from months to minutes, Wayfair seeing faster setup and happier devs, Salesforce generating millions of lines of code automatically. It's happening.
Okay, so AI is massive. What else?
Platform engineering. This is seen as a critical evolution of DevOps, really. designed to handle the complexity of modern cloud-native and microservices environments.
So this is where internal developer platforms, IDPs, come in, dedicated teams providing self-service tools.
Exactly. Standardized environments, tooling, infrastructure, all provided as a service internally. The benefits are clear. Faster time to market, better resource use, standardization, security, collaboration, observability.
And adoption is fast.
Incredibly fast.
Mhm.
Over half the platform teams out there are less than 2 years old.
Mm.
It shows how urgently organizations feel the need to tame that complexity.
So it's really about productizing the internal experience, abstracting away the underlying complexity so developers can focus on the actual application logic.
That's the core idea. Let them stay in flow. Companies like Netflix and Spotify are, the classic examples here with their mature internal platforms. Capital One's big cloud migration and scaling efforts are also highlighted.
Interesting. Any other trends worth mentioning?
Yeah, a few others pop up. Hyper-agile, focusing more on outcome-driven, customer-centric KPIs instead of just output. Sustainable software development, thinking about energy efficiency. Platform teams finding resource zombies.
Resource zombies, like inefficient processes.
Yeah, things just consuming resources unnecessarily. Also low-code, no-code platforms, which AI is making even more powerful. And the ongoing evolution of hybrid work models, needing better collaboration tools, maybe AI summaries for meetings and such.
So the big picture is development becoming more accessible, way more efficient, more focused on impact, and driven heavily by AI and automation.
Right. And organizations really need to adapt their culture and talent strategies to keep up.
But that adaptation isn't always easy, especially for large organizations, right?
Right.
They face some unique hurdles.
Oh, absolutely. The sources detail quite a few common obstacles. Cultural resistance is a huge one. Breaking down those ingrained silos, changing processes people have used for years, sometimes just fear of automation making roles redundant.
And legacy systems, that must be a nightmare.
It's a massive pain point. Old tech manual processes tangled up in ancient code. It causes endless frustration, limits what you can do, creates security risks, and just the thought of upgrading can feel totally overwhelming.
There's also, uncertainty, fear of getting it wrong, especially with something new like an IDP.
Yeah, definitely. Uncertainty about what to build, fear of wasting money or building the wrong thing, plus just the sheer complexity of existing tool chains, often a fragmented mess of different tools that don't work well together.
And then trying to scale any changes across a huge company, managing the growing complexity of these platforms, finding people with the right DevOps or platform engineering skills.
All major challenges. And often, the sources suggest it's less about the tech being impossible and more about organizational inertia, history, and just being risk-averse.
Okay, so given those challenges, how can large organizations actually make progress? What are the strategies?
Well, tackling resistance head-on starts with communication and education.
Yeah.
You have to proactively explain the why, the benefits for individuals in the company. Make it clear how these changes help everyone.
And getting buy-in from the top.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Executive sponsorship is non-negotiable. You need leaders championing this, giving it momentum, helping overcome roadblocks, making sure it aligns with business priorities.
Makes sense.
Cross-functional teamwork is also key. Getting different groups, dev, ops, security, maybe product working together, maybe in unified platform teams, shared goals, integrated effort. And leaders need to walk the talk, model the behaviors. It needs that top-down vision and bottom-up engagement.
And what about those legacy systems? You can't just ignore them.
No, but you probably can't fix them all at once either. The advice is often to embrace API-first architecture. That gives you agility, lets new things talk to old things more easily.
And tackle it piece by piece. Incremental migration.
It's exactly. Start small.
Yeah.
Pilot projects. Focus on less critical areas first. It reduces risk, lets you learn, gather data, prove the value before you try to scale it everywhere. Use an MVP approach, minimum viable product for migrations. Define a clear strategy.
So you're not trying to boil the ocean.
Right. And when scaling these DevEx initiatives, adopt a product mindset for your internal platforms. Treat them like actual products.
With dedicated teams, feedback loops from the developers using them, iterative development.
Yes. Start with maybe a thinnest viable platform, a TVP, and build out based on feedback. Have a proper adoption strategy, build communities for knowledge sharing, and for really big places, maybe even a dedicated DevEx team focused purely on this.
And minimizing that cognitive load, those interruptions.
That needs organizational discipline. Things like do not disturb periods, encouraging async communication, better documentation, breaking down complex tasks. Leadership needs to actively support and enable these practices.
Okay, this leads us to the million-dollar question, or maybe the multi-million-dollar question, the ROI. How do you justify spending money on DevEx?
Well, the ROI is huge and it's multifaceted. It goes way beyond just saving a bit of cost. It's about strategic advantage.
So quantifiable benefits first.
Yeah, increased developer productivity and velocity is the obvious one. Less friction means more time coding, less time fighting tools. We saw the stats: 50% more productive in flow, 30% on engaging work, 42% with code understanding. AI is a force multiplier on top of that.
And you measure this with things like time to productivity, quality metrics, DORA metrics like deployment frequency.
Exactly. Then there's improved software quality and less technical debt. Happier devs, better environments lead to fewer bugs, fewer rushed workarounds. Remember that link between fast answers and 50% less tech debt. That prevents future problems, fewer emergencies.
Which must link to talent retention, too.
Massively. Developers want to work in places where they can be effective and not frustrated. Good DevEx means higher satisfaction. People are more likely to stay.
The sources said 20% more likely to retain, even double if there are formal initiatives.
Yeah, numbers like that. Which saves a fortune on recruitment and keeps valuable knowledge in-house. There was even a stat about government leaders expecting better job satisfaction from digital transformation, which often includes DevEx.
And faster time to market, more innovation.
Directly linked. Those rapid feedback loops speed up innovation cycles, get features out faster. Good tools make developers feel more innovative. Some studies suggest DevEx can cut time to market by like 77%.
Wow. Reduced operational costs, too.
Less time fixing bugs, less downtime.
Yep, less waste. And IDPs can help optimize infrastructure costs.
And it all adds up to better business outcomes.
Ultimately, yes. Better software, delivered faster, by happier teams. It hits the bottom line. Organizations with strong DevEx are more likely to hit their business goals, maybe 33% more likely. Some reports link it directly to significant revenue growth numbers like 85%, 88% impact were mentioned.
Like that Adobe quote, when tech is your product, investing in DevEx isn't optional. Precisely. So the ROI is about growth, talent, innovation, not just cost saving. Measuring it means tracking your costs, licenses, training, platform build-out, cloud spend, and then quantifying those benefits we just discussed.
So translating hours saved into money, calculating reduced turnover cost, estimating revenue from faster releases, low ops costs.
Exactly. You can use a basic ROI formula, net profit program cost, 100%. But the key shift, emphasized in the sources, is moving your KPIs away from just output, like lines of code,
towards impact. Time to value, supply chain improvements, user experience lifts, things the business cares about.
Exactly. And benchmarking against others helps build the case.
Okay, final piece of the puzzle. You got the data, you understand the ROI.
Yeah.
How do you actually convince management to sponsor this? How do you make the pitch?
You absolutely have to speak their language, frame everything in terms they care about, driving revenue, cutting costs, mitigating risk, improving predictability.
Think like a CEO. See it as part of the developer go-to-market.
Right. Position your proposal as a solution to their problems or a way to achieve their goals. Go beyond making developers happy. Connect every single proposed improvement back to a quantifiable impact on finance or strategy.
So, step one, build a rock-solid business case.
Absolutely. Start by defining the problem and its current cost in business terms. Not builds are slow, but engineers waste X% of time on Y, costing Z dollars monthly and delaying revenue by W days. Quantify the pain. Use real data.
Then propose clear, SMART goals, specific, measurable.
Achievable, relevant, time-bound, yes. Like reduce code review time to 1 day in 6 months, boosting feature velocity by 20%. It shows accountability and a path to value.
And bring in those competitive benchmarks. Show what peers are doing.
Definitely. Use those examples: Netflix, Wayfair, Salesforce. Creates urgency, maybe a little FOMO, fear of missing out.
Highlighting quick wins or pilot successes seems crucial too.
Essential. Early positive results build huge momentum and credibility. Pilots de-risk the whole thing for leadership before a big rollout. It addresses that fear of getting it wrong and present a united front.
Get dev, ops, product, maybe others, all making the request together?
Yes. So it doesn't look like just one team wanting shiny new toys. It signals strategic importance.
And securing that executive sponsor isn't just a one-off approval.
No, it's an ongoing partnership. Find that champion high up. Keep them updated with regular reviews, show progress, flag roadblocks, adjust the plan together, continuously link it back to their objectives and how it reduces risk.
And finally, telling the story with data.
Crucial. Don't just dump numbers. Weave a narrative. Connect emotionally and logically. Use real scenarios, projections. Show before and after metrics that speak directly to business goals, revenue, costs, time to market.
Things like goal tree mapping. linking a low-level metric like code review time up to market share.
Exactly. Great numbers mean nothing without effective presentation. DevEx leaders need to be good communicators, good storytellers.
Okay, that was definitely a deep dive. So to quickly recap, DevEx isn't just tech fluff. It's foundational. It's strategic. It hits productivity, quality, innovation, talent, the bottom line.
Right. And trends like AI and platform engineering are huge enablers, but making it work, especially in big companies, takes strategy, cultural change, incremental steps, product thinking for internal tools.
And the ROI is real. You just need to articulate it in business terms, use impact metrics, tell a compelling story, and get that executive backing.
Couldn't have said it better.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over. Success with DevEx isn't really just about the technology itself. It's about blending that tech seamlessly with cultural shifts and adopting that continuous product mindset for your internal systems.
Yeah, think about this. Can you pinpoint one specific area in your own organization right now where the environment might be getting in the way of developer flow?
Yeah.
Or maybe significantly adding to their cognitive load?
And then consider how could addressing just that one friction point potentially unlock some really significant, maybe even surprising value for the whole business.
We're thinking about where that hidden drag might be.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. We really hope exploring these sources with us has sparked some ideas.
Yeah, hope it was valuable.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives.